Teachers, what was the best smart-ass response from a student you have heard? Story 1. Let me point out that I'm female since people will assume I'm a guy. I taught in an inner-city school. We were talking about prime numbers, so I would have kids give me a number, and we'd work out if the number was a prime number on the board. One kid wasn't paying attention, so me being a young teacher, I thought I'd catch him off guard and call on him. It went something along the lines of, I said, "Mark, do you have a number?" He didn't reply, so I asked again. "Mark, I need your number." He replied, "Shit, play it cool, girl. We can talk after class." The whole room lost their shit, and I turned red from embarrassment. They then laughed at how red I got. Story 2. I had a woman accuse me of sexual harassment in a French class for civil servants. We were just casually trying to have a conversation in French when the teacher asked me, "Have I ever eaten a beaver?" This was in Ottawa, and during Winterlude they sell a pastry called a beaver tail. So I respond, "What kind?" Thinking of the animal or the pastry. Most people were laughing, and this one woman throws a book at me and stomps out of the class. I kind of wonder what the heck when it dawns on me, okay, oral sex on a woman. Anyhow, this woman reports to me and tries to get me kicked out of the class. She ended up leaving the class, and I found out later she was notorious for bringing sexual harassment suits against fellow employees. Story 3. A kid in my math class would sleep on his desk. One day the teacher called on him to answer a problem on the chalkboard. He woke up, solved the problem on the board with zero difficulty, and then just went back to sleep. The teacher repeated the same thing a few times with similar results, and then just let him sleep the rest of the year. Story 4. I had already had multiple instances of really bad issues with my period to the point where my mom had informed the school of my issues and had my teachers notified as well, and this was rectified with a doctor's note as well. This certain episode occurred after the same teacher had denied me extra bathroom privileges multiple times to the point of me having bled through my pants in class and having to be excused from school by my mom. My dad is a rough man. He is a hunter. He likes to drink and does not enjoy talking about or having anything to do with lady issues. So when my teacher called him from the classroom after all of the precautions my mom had taken to help me be comfortable at school, needless to say he was not pleased. He showed up with a box of tampons like stated. He was very polite but stern with my teacher at first. He sat down with the principal and my science teacher and simply asked what the problem was and how to correct it. Things would have gone more smoothly with my no bullshit dad if the teacher hadn't said that I was lying and using my female genitalia as a way to con him into letting me skip class. Things didn't go so smoothly after that. My teacher cried. Class was excused for the rest of the peak. The principal agreed with my dad that if a pardon from class was necessary during my period, and my dad went on his merry manly way. Story 5. My wife, when she was in high school, had a PA teacher that pulled this kind of thing. The class was doing some exercises, but my wife kept finishing them faster than the laser students, so she would be standing around waiting for the rest of the students to finish. The teacher accused her of not doing them. My wife said she had done them, and they argued back and forth a bit. The teacher then decided to call my wife's father to get her in trouble or something. The teacher actually got a hold of him on speakerphone so the whole class could listen. The teacher tells him all about how your daughter says she finished her exercises but is clearly lying and want to do more exercises or something. My father-in-law, who was a partner in a very successful business law firm, listens quietly through the whole thing and then responds with my norm. Billing rate is large number of dollars per hour. Don't waste my time with this crap. If my daughter says she did the exercises, then she did them. Don't ever call me again, and then hung up. The teacher immediately told everyone to get to their exercises for the day and never brought that up again. Story 6. In our high school, PE became health for half a semester, but the rules for PE were still enforced. If you're caught chewing gum, you have to do 50 push-ups. One of the GV basketball players got caught chewing gum and spent most of the 100-minute class trying to get out of his push-ups. Before the end of class, the skinny, quiet, nerdy kid slams his book closed and says, "Look, it's just 50 push-ups. If you had just done them in the first place, it'd be over by now." The athlete tried to play it off. "Just 50. Look at your scrawny arms. You couldn't even do 5. Before he could go on, the skinny kid gets up.
"Oh, yeah, let's go then, you and me."
Both got into push-up positions and started doing push-ups. Before the athlete got to 25, the nerd got to 50, popped up like he could have done more, cracked his knuckles and sat back down and started reading again. The rest of the class, coach included, stare stunned at the nerdy kid before starting to laugh at the athlete, still struggling to finish his 50 push-ups. Story 7. My friend Brian was in his homeroom class back in high school. The topic of abortion came up as everyone was asking each other if why they're either against or pro-abortion. We're in Texas, so you can assume the ideas and opinions of the majority of the class. So my friend is a very intelligent and quiet fellow, minding his own business in a corner of the room. The class turns to him to get his opinion on the matter. Someone, Brian, you've been quiet over there. So what about you? Are you pro-abortion? Brian, well, are you pro-abortion? Brian Wolf wouldn't say I'm a pro, but I'm pretty good with a coat hanger. Jaws drop. The room is silent as everyone is registering what just happened. Glad I made it to school that day. Story 8. Tangentially related. Smart-ass response from teacher on behalf of the student. Had a student that came back a couple of weeks out of class. Counselor let the teachers know that his father had passed and he was having a rough time. Pulled him aside after class one day, told him not to worry about any of the work he missed. Focus on getting caught up in your other classes. I'll make things work out here. I was his 10th grade English teacher. We had already taken the end-of-year exam. As far as the state was concerned, he was done, and that was good enough for me. Kid was straight A's until his dad passed. A few weeks later, I'm called into the counselor's office for a meeting with the student's other teachers. I double-check, and he's been doing great in class, and work I've assigned has been turned in on time, even though told him he didn't have to. So I'll have no idea what's going on. Come to find out his other teachers weren't as lenient on the makeup work as I was. He had gotten behind in all his other classes and had stayed behind. Now he was in danger of failing everything but my class. He'd have to repeat the year saved for English. The counselor asks me what I did to help the student. Oh, well, he told him not to worry about anything he missed, and that as far as I was concerned, he was already caught up and he could do his best in class going forward. One of the other teachers balked. I don't see why we needed Mr. Hexadragon's input. He just let the kids skip out on work. That's not helpful. I replied, the kid's dad just fucking died. You really think the last 6 weeks' worth of history matters to him in the slightest? The counselor smiled and pointed at me.
I invited Mr. Hexadragon because knew he would say some things I'm not allowed to say.
Story 9. This is one of my favorite stories from high school. I'm not a teacher, but this is a story about my teacher's response to one particular smart-ass answer. So my high school mythology teacher, Mr. D, would have his honors class students help him grade tests from the other classes. He would always require properly spelled write-in answers. No multiple choice for him. So we'd get the tests, he'd read off the answers, and we'd mark them accordingly. One was who was the wife of King Minos. Now, according to our Greek lore, Pasiphae, Minos' wife, was the one who had sex with a bull and gave birth to the Minotaur. So that the answer is Pasiphae, and one of the students kind of timidly raises his hand. Mr. D goes, what you got, they wrote, bull slut. The class breaks into laughter. Mr. D grins and thinks about it for a second, and says, I like it. Story 10. Had my working class kids at an art gallery. As we waited for our tour to begin, we played on the small playground near the door. A prep school kid in a uniform approached 2 of my boys and said, I bet I'm smarter than you are. I watched to make sure no blood was drawn. My students can hold their own pretty much anywhere, and they don't accept insults casually. But they were cool. No, you're not. Are you in grade 2? The boy said he was. And one of my boys said, so then we're all grade 2, so we are all grade 2 smart. He went back to climbing the monkey bars. But the prep school kid continued. I'll know I'm smarter. Let's do some math and I'll prove it. The toughest kid in my room looked this guy square in the eye and said, well, I'm smart enough not to do math when I'm having fun on a playground.